Money FM 89.3. Best of breakfast. Mind your business. Only on Money FM 89.3.
Yes, that's right. You're listening to Mind Your Business. I'm Ahmad Akhtar. Now, in a world where the pressure on businesses to be socially and environmentally responsible grows louder every day, many leaders struggle to move beyond surface-level commitments. The challenge isn't just about ticking boxes or meeting compliance standards. It's about rethinking the very purpose of leadership itself. What if leadership could be a force for true transformation? One that balances profit with purpose and short-term gains with long-term stewardship of our planet and communities. Well, today we're joined by a trailblazer who's been at the forefront of this movement. His name is Rajeev Peshawaria, and as the CEO of Stewardship Asia Centre, with a rich career spanning top global firms and now a passionate advocate for what he calls steward leadership, Rajeev brings a powerful vision that goes beyond traditional ESG frameworks. So let's get into it with the man himself. Good morning, Rajeev. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much, Ahmad.
Thank you for coming on. Your reputation precedes you. Now, you began as a banker and currency trader before transitioning into leadership and HR roles at Fortune 100 companies such as Amex, HSBC, Morgan Stanley, and Coca-Cola. So a pretty colorful CV. And today you combine 22 years of global Fortune 100 experience with research-based insights to provide some practical approaches to personal leadership, ethics, governance, sustainable business growth, and stewardship at your organization. So having worked with some of the biggest names in the business world, what led you to Stewardship Asia Centre and what sparked your interest in sustainability and leadership?
The short answer is that I had this realization that we are trying to solve a leadership problem because addressing climate change, social inequality, and cyber vulnerability, the three biggest existential challenges, is a leadership issue. We're trying to solve it instead with money, with incentives, with measurement, with reporting. And that's why the current backlash on ESG, and that's why it's not working. The moment you reduce everything to a number, bad behavior happens. Management scientists have known this forever.
Yeah. So in your view, how has ESG become more of a compliance exercise as opposed to a meaningful framework for change?
So again, the intention of ESG was that, just let's put this in perspective first. 69 of the top 100 economies in the world are companies, not countries. 2 days ago, I was in Taiwan, and I told them, between TSMC and NVIDIA, two Taiwan-originated companies, $5 trillion. How many countries have a GDP of $5 trillion? Only two in the world, right? So business has a huge responsibility here. And the idea is that, we say responsible business. We say, do the right thing. That's not enough. ESG has to be the business itself. Jamshedji Tata, the founder of the Tata Group, said 150 years ago, in a free enterprise, society is not just a stakeholder in business, it is the sole reason for its existence.
Right.
In other words, businesses that have been making their money by solving real human problems have been in business for hundreds of years.
So you mentioned ESG goals are misaligned. Can you give us a real-world example of an ESG effort that was well-intentioned, to your point, but ultimately ineffective or even counterproductive?
Well, the moment you link sort of compensation to ESG goals, bad behavior will happen. I don't need to take names. You just pull up on Google or any of the financial portals, recent examples of greenwashing, and your screen will be filled in a second and several pages down. And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So, we say that, we want to do focus on environment, focus on social and things like that. But the way we measure, it just incentivizes bad behavior.
Yeah.
If you link my bonus to these kinds of things, I'm going to choose one of 850 different measurement mechanisms of ESG and choose the one that makes me look better. So what gets measured doesn't get done. That's the biggest management lie ever.
Yeah.
What gets done gets measured in a convenient way and reported.
How do you work with companies that are ESG laggards in the sense that you work with them to convince them that change is actually worth it?
So, we see a spectrum of corporate action.
Yeah.
You have the greenwashers and the purpose washers who are willfully deceiving the markets. Then you have the in denials. What climate change? It doesn't exist. And if it does, it's not my problem.
Yeah.
You have the window dressers. everybody's talking about sustainability, so let me dress the window up a little bit, more form than substance. Then you have the box checkers who will do whatever the minimum the law requires and nothing else. And then you have a few who are real steward leaders. These are the difference between the left-hand side and the right-hand side. The guys on the left are profiting from today's challenges. They have no incentive of changing the status quo. And the guys on the far right, the steward leaders, are creating profitable solutions to today's challenges. And therein lies the solution. If you want to save planet Earth and humanity, profit is going to save the world, not incentives, not regulations, because all those things are required to minimize harm. But to maximize good and to maximize innovation, you need profitable solutions to today's problems. And that's why we need to change ESG, the whole ESG narrative, upside down from risk and compliance to opportunity.
Yeah, and you've done that in a book that you have sold. It's a best-selling book, Sustainable Sustainability, among, I think, a few others that you've written. That book illustrates the strategies that marry profit and purpose. Now, what motivated you to write it, and what were the key existential challenges of sustainability that you've highlighted in your book?
So, my issue with ESG was that we were trying to go about saving planet Earth and humanity in unnatural ways. We were telling people to consume less. Now, try telling a young kid who, for the first time from lower middle class family in a country like India or Indonesia, can afford to buy a car for his mom and dad, who have never had a car because they spent all their money in educating this kid.
Yes.
Tell him not to buy the car. He's going to not listen. What do you mean don't consume? Right? Don't lecture me after you guys have created the mess.
Yes.
Right?
Show by example. No?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you're telling businesses, hey, sacrifice some purpose for profit. These are all unnatural ways. The natural force with humanity is greed and the need for power and influence. Right? I want to be rich. The whole point I make in the book is that there is a way to be rich, famous, and powerful by solving human problems. And by the way, now the data suggests that if you put society at the center of business, your business is going to be successful for very long periods of time. So what game do you want to play? You want to play the short game? Do you want to play the long game?
Yeah, so to that point, you mentioned, flipping ESG in essence on its head. And in your book, you argue that ESG alone isn't enough. You propose moving from ESG to ESL, environmental, social, and steward leadership. What does ESL look like in action?
So what we did is we researched initially 100 companies that have been doing well by doing good, delivering good to superior shareholder returns by addressing societal or environmental problems. And we asked them, why did you do it? How do you do it? And with that was born a playbook called Steward Leadership. And it has 3 simple steps. These companies and these individuals, number one, embed 5 specific values. We call them stewardship values into the DNA of the organization. Interdependence, the belief that the more I give, the more I receive. Long-term view. We think in generations, not in quarters. Ownership mentality. We want to make money. We want to be rich and famous, but by solving human problems, right? Creative resilience. This is going to need innovation, but we will not give up even if we fail 8 out of 10 times. And finally, the 5th one is a higher form of integrity called ethical integrity. Not just legal integrity, if it's just because it's not forbidden by law. Just because you're not lying doesn't mean you're telling the truth. So to look at ethical implications of what you're about to do, AI is a classic example.
Yes.
Right? Are you going to make weapons of mass destruction at low cost with AI? Or are you going to make limbs for people with amputated arms and legs with the same technology? These are ethical considerations. And there's, very hard to argue what's right or wrong, because if you make weapons, you're a patriot for your country. But what are you going to use your genius for? Robin Hood, which, created those addictive apps and led to youngsters committing suicide. That's ethical integrity. Those are ethical integrity. So the step 1 is these 5 values. Step 2, give yourself a purpose. What collective better future are you going to create? And 3, simply now that you have your compass of purpose and values, we call it the Steward Leadership Compass, make sure every decision goes through and is funneled through that compass. And you will do well by doing good.
Yeah, so values, purpose, and having a compass that leads you in the right direction. This is, I suppose, what helps leaders stay accountable on the ESG journey. That being said, investors and shareholders play a role as well. What role is that?
So again, there are many kinds of investors. The 2 broad buckets are, I want to maximize my returns no matter how. I don't care about anything else, and I want it in the shortest possible time. And then there are investors who see themselves as stewards. And they have a long-term horizon. They say, yes, we want our investee companies to do well over hundreds of years. We have patience, and they will do well, but by doing good for planet Earth and humanity. What kind of investor do you want to be?
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, you did briefly allude to the fact that steward leadership can actually drive profitability, which is contrary to, I guess, popular belief, because many investors will look at ROI and they see ESG frameworks generally don't necessarily bring that kind of realistic ROI to the table. Share with us a case study of where steward leadership has driven profitability, if applicable.
I could go on forever with examples, but here's the difference. If you plant ESG on top of your existing business, then most likely you're looking at ESG as a cost, an added cost. And then you complain, oh my God, that's draining my margins and this, that, and the other. That's the wrong way of looking at ESG. You start with, what human problem can I solve profitably? And make that your business itself. After hundreds of examples, the one that I recently visited in India, in the state of Kashmir, near Srinagar, there was this doctor who, was very upset because if you are living in a village or in a rural area in India and you are having a heart attack, you have to travel on average 6 hours to get to a big city to get super specialty treatment. Wow. And most of these people die on the way.
Yep.
So he said that it can't be. So he started a first hospital, and now he's got 29 hospitals and going up to more, where these are super specialty hospitals in tier 3 cities and villages, where you can come in and get treated. And majority of the patients are extremely poor and they are treated cashless. Right? And yet the business is EBITDA positive already and well in its way to full profitability.
Wow.
So the question is, how, if you're not charging money and you're giving the best treatment like anywhere in the world and you're serving the poorest of the poor, how are you making money?
Yeah.
That's called steward leadership. And the answer is very simple. Every Indian, more or less, is covered by a government policy. All right, except that the bureaucracy and sometimes the corruption takes a year for the money to come out. So the innovation these guys do, amongst other things, is, by the way, it's a fireable offense in these hospitals to turn away a patient because he doesn't have money, right? So the innovation is every hospital employs an army of people whose job it is to help these semi-literate people go through the bureaucracy and get their money from the government. So it's not that it's not a cashless business, it's a 1-year cash flow issue. And the volumes are so great because nobody else is touching such patients that after you get over the hump of the first year of cash flow issues, then there's huge volumes and huge money to be made. Simple. So creative resilience, one of the 5 values I talked about, this is a great example of that. Right? Interdependence. The more they help the poor, the more they make money. Many examples. It's a choice. Do you want to make money this way?
Yeah, good to see this flourishing in a developing country like India. Are there industries or regions where you see steward leadership gaining more traction, or is it a bit of a global uphill battle?
So, I always say this. 80% of the people will not adopt steward leadership.
Yes.
How much ever we teach them, how much ever we lecture them, 80% will not choose steward leadership because it's harder. And this is great news. Why is it great news when 80% of the people don't listen? Because it takes only 20% to change the world. That's what Wilfredo Pareto taught us in 1906. And that Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, hasn't been debunked by mathematicians or scientists up until now. In every walk of life, 80-20 is still alive. So we really need to convince 2 out of 10 people. And I think that can happen.
Yeah, that can have a pretty cascading effect on the rest of the world.
And for the rest of the 80%, we have regulation to minimize harm, because regulation is only good at minimize harm. There can be no law saying thou shalt innovate more. So let regulation do its job for the 80% and let steward leadership do its job for the 20%. And if we get to 20%, we will have a better world.
Fantastic. Now, I don't know about the 80-20 split on this front, but 100% of our listeners must be wondering about any advice you can give them on becoming stewards, not just managers or executives. I'm talking young leaders and entrepreneurs.
For every young people, I have only one piece of advice if they care to listen, and that is ask yourself before it's too late. Who am I? Why am I in this world? And how will this world be a little bit better by the time I'm gone? What will be my life worth? Not what will be my net worth. Move your focus from net worth to life worth. And I guarantee you, if you chase life worth instead of net worth, your net worth needs would automatically take care of itself. Either you will find something you love giving to the world that you'll get so good at that you'll make a ton of money doing it, or you're so happy giving to the world what you're giving that you don't need a ton of money to be happy. Either which way, your net worth needs will take care of. So my simple message is, chase life worth, not net worth.
That is an excellent message. Rajeev Peshawaria, CEO of Stewardship Asia Centre. We've been talking about why ESG efforts are not working out and how we can enact more meaningful change within the business world. In the spirit of ESG, I'm going to say you have been energetic, you're smart, and you're pretty gifted. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for those kind words, and thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Stay with Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.